Welcome back to TMI with Teryl and Martha. We're going to do something really special today. We're going to talk about the books that we're reading, and we're going to call it TMI Book Talk. We'll probably do more of this. You know, as we go through this journey together, we're learning about things, and so we're learning what we can do and what we can't do. And today, we're going to talk about books, not only the ones we're reading, but listening to and all the different ways that we consume books, Teryl. So it's exciting.
It is exciting because, you know, I'm running around like a crazy person 90% of the time. So whereas you might have some books here, I actually have tons of books at my house. I'm reading a lot of things at one time usually, but I'm listening to things more often than I'm reading.
So I've got a stack of books in the living room.
Mhm.
Okay. I've got a stack of books beside my bedside. Okay. When I say a stack, 4, 5, 6
Yeah,
that I'm working
that's
on
a
at any
stack.
given time.
Yeah.
I've got books on audiobooks that I listen to.
Yep.
And I've got a lot I need to catch up with that. Some books I do in audio and paper, you know, but
Yeah.
I still love the idea of sitting, opening up
Holding a book. Yeah.
and reading the book and being able to mark it up. I am one of those people, folks, where I mark a book up when I am reading it so I can go back and know
Well,
what I
that's
want to
funny.
remember.
I used to be that way. And then it turned out that I was moving around so much that it got heavy carrying the actual books. Every
Yes.
time I would go anywhere, I
He
had a
ain't
big
heavy,
old
he's my
satchel
brother.
with, yes, exactly. So I started kind of moving them to Kindle, and that helped me because I will read something based on how I'm feeling that day. What kind of mood am I in? And so I would always have a bunch of different books. My husband and I are getting ready to paint our living room, and we had to pull all the stuff out of the built-ins. I have massive amounts of books at my house. So there's proof out there that I'm reading. But
So it's interesting to me because I love, I just started reading fiction in the last few years because I'm like a nonfiction biography,
Right, me too.
self-help kind of person reader. But I started, and it was with a couple of series of books that I got through Masterpiece Theater. One was called Poldark Books, which was by Winston Graham.
Yep.
And there's 13 of those books. And what I love about them is they are old love books. It's not just they get married and happily met ever after and you never see them again. They take these relationships through 30 years.
Wow.
And the other
That's a
ones
long
are the
time.
Outlander books,
Oh, yeah.
which I love. And so there's a book that came out as a companion to the Outlander books. I'm not going to talk about it today, but I'm going to mention it because it's about reading things over again. It's called Finding Fraser by Casey Dyer. And it's more like a travel journal. And I reread it about once a year because it's about finding a guy like Jamie Fraser.
Wow. Oh, I have looked, but I did marry an Irish man. So,
Yes.
not Scottish, but, he
Close
doesn't,
enough.
he doesn't wear a skirt, but, he's cute. He's cute.
So we love books and we love the information there. And we're going to talk a little bit about them. I'm going to let Teryl go first because my books are not so much wellness related. They're more related to what I do and what I'm interested in. But I think it's really important to have the whole balance. So Teryl,
Yeah,
kick it off.
I'm a little bit of a geek. My background in my life led me to when other people were reading, in middle school, when other kids were reading books like, what are the crime ones? The little cute crime ones when you're
Nancy
reading.
Drew.
Nancy Drew.
Yes.
Thank you. Most of my friends were reading things like Nancy Drew. I was finding it fun to read quantum physics books, and I did stand out that way.
I think so.
I had no one I could talk to about the cool books I was reading to try to learn why is this table solid. I was always that pesky kid asking a lot of questions, so I started researching and finding books. That's what's led me kind of down the path that I have been on. Although I do love a good murder mystery. James Patterson. I love James Patterson, and I am in a book club, so it has really widened my horizons. I love that about a book club, and I really recommend if you can find or head up a book club, do it, because I have found it's had me read books I would have never read otherwise and found that I really enjoyed them.
Ooh, that sounds like an idea.
Right? A little book club. We could have our own book club.
That's right.
And y'all could just put books in there you want us to talk about. Anyway, one of the books that I've recently read, and I am doing a lot of work with my health, right? Because I've got what we call a genetically loaded gun. Um, but lifestyle does pull the trigger, right? So I'm always seeking to make sure I know where I am, with my health, and having a good medical doctor to help guide you with your labs, and knowing the more preventative strategies, seeing functional medicine doctors. I do it all, just so that I can cross every T. But one of the really amazing books that I just recently finished in an airport in Miami was Casey Means has written a book called Good Energy. And, sometimes these books are hard reads, wouldn't you think? Like a health book, it's got to be hard to read sometimes.
Yeah, I heard her on a podcast called Trigonometry, and got the book after that. So
Did
I've
you?
read Good Energy.
Oh, good.
And it is that kind of interesting kind of book because her background is she has a medical background,
Right.
and then she started thinking about different things related to nutrition and things like that. And so she's talking about that from that perspective.
Right. And I love that about her. She's an MD. She's got the education, but she realized there was a blank spot in her education and it didn't sit right with her. So that's why she went back and started working more in a preventative, looking for that preventative education, which is important. Just a lot of people who have been through it, their education just didn't have the time. If it's not in the educational system, you don't have any time if you're trying to get a medical degree to go do stuff that's not required. There's a lot required. So anyway, I really enjoyed her book because she did kind of help to bring it to layman's terms, kind of things that you could do or ask yourself. For example, one of the things I wanted to just throw out to everybody to listen to, they can take notes or whatever. If you're looking at this, just some basic numbers for metabolic health that she does. She has did you see the checklist that she has in the quiz? So a lot of people will find that when you do the quiz in this book, you're not going to do very well because I'm very strategic in how I live my life. No processed foods, all that. But I still didn't score one, great in some of the quizzes. So I thought it would be important to let people know kind of some of the cool things in the back of this book. So in the metabolic health area, I'm wearing my glasses so that I can see. Glucose under 100, ? I mean, does everybody know what their glucose levels are? Triglycerides under 150, ? HDL above 40 for men or 50 for women. And this is important because I was just telling Martha earlier, HDL is your garbage men, right? You've got to have good HDL because HDL is what helps to keep your arteries clear and clean. So you want that. Waist size for men, 40 and under 40, and for women, under 35. Now that is like a kind of a BMI calculation where I'm not always okay with that because different body styles, different body types any one thing doesn't mean you're not healthy, right? Because there's different builds for all of us. And a lot of bodybuilders or even people that are born just bigger in general may have that. That doesn't mean they're not sick in any way. So don't take that as being sick. But blood pressure under 120/80. I thought those were pretty decent metrics to look at as a whole. But in this book, I do highly recommend the book because she does kind of make it easy to understand what it takes to live a healthier lifestyle. She goes through again some of the examples of, do you take probiotics daily? Do you eat cruciferous vegetables daily? So these are all things that you can ask yourself by going and getting the book, listening to it, or reading it, so that you can just do a self-check, right? Saves you, all you're paying is the cost of the book.
Yeah, and I think too, one of the things she did in that book, which I thought was important, is that it's kind of a balanced approach in things. And it's the same thing that I got when I first read Diet for a Small Planet. That book came out in 1972. It was actually the first book that came out related to a plant-based diet. And they've updated it every year. So there is like a 2022 version out there of this book. I read, I think that 2002 version is the one that I read. But what was great about this woman is she was a trained PhD agriculture person. So she understood about agriculture and how to grow food. And she also was not an anti-meat person. You think if you're writing a plant-based book, you're anti-meat, but the goal was to be as plant-based as you can be, with the understanding. And the thing that really stuck out to me was that it takes an acre of land to grow one cow, but you can produce a lot more plant-based food on an acre of land.
Yeah.
And that when you're talking about feeding people, and she also didn't demonize the trying to grow more food, because it's easy for us to say in America, where we have plentiful food grown, we produce more food than we need, to say we shouldn't do anything to change the way we grow plants, because there are people that are starving in the world that have bad topography for growing, so that where they grow, they have to get the maximum output for that piece of land, or else people are going to starve to death. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, their lives actually depend on it.
Their lives actually depend on it. So I loved the way that she balanced out the message. And I think Casey Means does that too in this
very
book too.
similar.
She balances the message out.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what we need in the world today, especially so many people searching for answers. One of our segments, we will get to how to get through all the ups and downs and all the hype and the information that's out available on the internet. I mean, we do need to talk about that, because there's so many things that you can get your information, so many places now that you can get your information from. But,
well, and it's a double-edged sword, right? Because when Bill Gates wrote his book, The Road Ahead, back in the 90s, he talked about how the Gutenberg press was created. And of course, the first book that came off of the Gutenberg press was the Bible. Well, the second book that came off of the Gutenberg press was a medieval porn book. Okay, so you have the good side and the bad side of every kind of communication,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So you have to understand that the internet's great. You know, Dr. Google is fantastic.
Yeah.
But if all you do is, you can make yourself crazy.
You go there only.
Yes. You've got to actually talk to people and have a good team around you. So, so that's a great book, right? That you were just talking about, Casey Means' book. It's called Good Energy.
Yeah. And so, in there you can learn about metabolic health, food and nutrition. She goes over sleep and rhythm of sleep, which is really important.
Ooh, that's a big problem for me.
She's a big fan of these things, right? These trackers, these health trackers, sleep trackers. I hate it and I love it, right? I wear it sometimes, but other times I'm like, first of all, this is based off of science for men. And I'm very different from men. We're different.
And in a way, I think it's TMI, kind of like we are. No, I'm just kidding. But it makes me It makes me
it's
stressed.
A lot of information.
Yes.
Right. So I'm doing it just because right now I'm specifically monitoring my heart and my rhythms for certain reasons. Right.
Right.
When someone tells you got veins of a 78-year-old, you want to look and see how you're doing. But once I get through this next phase, this thing's going in a drawer, because, I used to tell people all the time, I spent 20 years of my life counting calories, counting steps, all of the above.
Well,
I don't want to do it anymore.
I was laughing with Tara before the show, before we started recording, our wonderful person that takes care of us, that for some reason on my iPhone, it says I sleep an hour and 13 minutes a night, which I know is not true. Okay. And so you also have to balance what you know is true and what is not true. They're not perfect, these things that measure all of these things. Do you know what I mean? I know I am sleep. Now, I do have disrupted sleep. I have since I was a small child. My father and I had that in common. In fact, some of our favorite times were him up in the middle of the night having a bowl of cereal, doing a crossword puzzle, and me waking up because I couldn't sleep and going down there and us chit-chatting in the middle of the night. We were the light sleepers in our family.
That's
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so even though that's not, quote, normal, that's kind of the way I've been since the day I was born.
And it hasn't hurt you. I mean, you're doing good. You're trotting along, and
my kids love to wake me up though, because I do that kind of
when the startle wake. That's
Even
hysterical.
now in their 30s and 40s, they love sneaking up on me and getting me to.
Oh, no.
So,
No.
someday I'm going to keel over when you do that and you'll feel bad.
I need to have a talk with your children. I need
That's
you to
right.
stick around.
So I wanted to go over to this book. So
Let's
I'm
do
gonna this is a little more, and I wouldn't even say it's a political book. It's a American book, and it's Ben Shapiro's Lions and Scavengers. It is brand new.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I just finished it. And what I love about it is the concept of this book is what real American history is, number one. But number two is that there's two ways you can go in life. You can go and be grateful. You can go in the path of gratitude, which means that you look for opportunities, you look forward, you understand the world isn't perfect.
You see the blessings.
But you see the blessings in your life.
Right.
Or you can go the path of envy, where you're envious of the people that have gratitude and have do things, and you somehow think you were cheated out of something versus, and he uses the analogy of lions and scavengers, because in the wild, you have the lions who are very much the gratitude people. They move forward, they take care of their pride, they do all of that. And I mean pride, the group, not pride, the celebration. And then you have the scavengers that go behind them and just kind of take what's left over.
Take the leftovers.
That's right. And it's a fantastic book. He's doing a lot of interviews about it right now. He has a fantastic podcast. I think it's one of the most popular podcasts in the world.
I need to see that.
Yeah, but he talks about kind of what America is and how we got to be great. And I think that that's an important message for today because, everybody wants to focus on the negative, but the fact of the matter is we have a lot more positive than we have negative.
Well, that right there is the main reason why I sent my children out of this country when they were in school, when they were in high school mainly. Some, I think maybe a few times in middle school. But if you have the chance as a parent out there, or if you're young, get outside this country. I think it's real important people have a bigger view of just what's in their backyard.
Yes.
Because when you do that, you can go out and enjoy the world and see things, but then you can also appreciate our country, our culture, the ease of our lifestyle. And everyone's ease of lifestyle is obviously different, right? Based on their, where they are in their world and how they are viewing things. But the opportunities that we have in this country are far beyond what are out there in other countries. So
well, and he points out too that the American dream is not just being rich. The American dream, and I'm talking about rich monetarily, the American dream is about your children having better opportunities than you did.
Opportunities.
There may be only one or two Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, right? But you may have the guy that is a laborer of some sort, and then his son owns a business.
Or is a doctor, for heaven's sakes.
Or is a doctor.
Yeah.
And then you have people like my parents didn't finish high school. My father didn't finish high school. My mother only finished high school. We went to college. We did different things. So America is such a great place as far as that goes. And we ought to be grateful for that because we're sitting here being able to do the things that we want to do, being able to change up our lives, being able to start over. I see one of the greatest blessings of this country is the ability to be able to start over. And I've done that a couple of times in my life.
Oh, I've had 3 different careers. I mean, I'm only 59, but I could probably write 3 separate books on my life and how I've changed and the different businesses even I've been a part of over the years. And it's a blessing, and we get the support of the government in some ways, but mainly the support of culture and community here to help you make those things happen in life. My kids, the reason I forced education on my children, not because I cared about them going to college per se, but for the reason of giving them a chance to have options, right?
Well, and reading and books is like the most important thing that separates us, and sets us apart.
True.
And, through your work with the North Georgia Literary Society, you encourage authors, you encourage people to read, you encourage people to be out there. And And I know this seems like such a small thing, but if you can get your child or anyone in your life
Mhm.
reading by the time they're in third grade, there's going to be nothing that's going to get in their way.
No.
Okay. There's going to be everything they can do. And I know everybody thinks everything's video, and we love the fact that you're here watching us today and being a part of it. But we want you to be as balanced and a well rounded person as you can be.
Right. And I think it starts with just reading to your children. You know, my daughter reads to my grandson every single night. It's part of his rhythm routine. He goes into his room, he picks his book out, and he goes and he reads it. And I'm going to have him for a few days, so I'm already going through my books trying to figure out which books I'm going to set out for him to pick so that I can read to him before he goes to bed. But that act of reading to your child also helps their brain become stimulated and grow in a way that you can get them reading early, and try to instill a love of reading. But, you know, the literary society is such a fun thing to do. And I really want to get you more involved as we go along. But the literary society is really, we're getting into the schools now. So we're partnering with UNG, and we're starting to look at the students and say, look, are there any aspiring writers or people that love to read? We have a whole community filled with published authors here in Gainesville. Amazing authors. They're, you know, from everything you can think of. There's books that you can buy that is from a local author. So I do encourage any of our viewers to look up their local authors. If you're here in Gainesville, we have many, and see if you can purchase a book from a local author and help them, because usually they're self-publishing. So, but something like this will just educate you. You know, reading a book like Ben Shapiro's book here, you're going to become educated in areas that you may not have known something, or it'll remind you to think about where we live, and in a time of such, I call it chaotic times. You know, it's almost like there was never not some chaos.
But you know,
but
that's what I was just
I
going to
mean, there's
say. When is
always
it not a
chaos.
chaotic time?
Yeah. So I say that, but it's kind of my way to say, look, this is what growth, this is what diversity, this is what all these things will create. If you don't have chaos, what do you have?
Well, I mean, you think
You
about
know?
it, like everybody talks about the boomers, and I am, excuse me, I'm a young boomer. But my parents went through the Depression, World War II, you know, the Cold War. I mean, there's
Yes.
always chaos. You tend to
Bay of
think what you're
Pigs.
going through is the worst ever.
Every
But
year,
I
every
would
decade.
argue this is the best time in the world to live. You can basically get anything you want at the cheapest price you've ever been able to buy it, and it shows up at your door in 2 days.
Or
Okay?
one day.
I know.
I mean, I've gotten some Amazon. I was out of town and ordered something on Amazon, and it was on my table when I got home. I mean, come on, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's
But
crazy. We're blessed.
We are very, very lucky.
So what's your next book?
Okay, so because I am a weirdo, no, I'm just kidding. I am a weirdo.
Well, a little
but
bit.
I
Yeah.
am a weirdo. But the other book, and I got this for you as a gift because I wanted you to read it and just see all the cool things in there. This book is called The Wisdom Codes, and it's by Greg Braden. Now, Greg Braden is he's a scientist. I think he was actually his actual degree is in what is the study of rocks? What's that called?
Geology.
Geologist. Thank you. I knew that, but that's why I need more of that. So he's a geologist by his educational background, but he went off on a bit of a soul journey, and he's been studying things, and you can find him on Netflix and on Prime, and he's got so many books out. But Greg Braden really has learned how to take science and scripture from all different, religions, and show you how it can benefit you health-wise. So he kind of takes spirit and spiritual things and moves it into a scientific pattern that you can understand or at least grab. And he teaches in this book how certain, statements, say words and things that Jesus spoke in the Bible are different masters, what they would call masters, how the vibrational quality of some of these things actually, if you use these words, because words create, we all know that. They can either create or destroy depending on how we use words, right? They're very powerful. So the wisdom codes takes key phrases and meanings from all different religions, and he shows you how it can help improve your actual neural pathways and help with stress levels, help you in areas where you might be, fighting health concerns. So the wisdom codes to me, I really listen to the book a lot. I need to get the book because it's also somewhat of a workbook. So you need to get the book, and you can get the audio if you want. But when I'm doing any kind of meditation, or if I'm in the sauna, getting my sauna during the morning hours, I will put on the wisdom codes and I will repeat some of these phrases that he's talking about. And quite honestly, I've been doing it now pretty consistent for about 30 days. And I really do see how it opens your brain, and it kind of changes your energy field in a way that you feel the difference between the first starting point of it and the end.
Well, it's so interesting, that connection between kind of the scientist brain and the
Mhm.
faith brain. And there's a much bigger connection than people think. People think they're separate, but they're not.
Yeah.
About 20 years ago, there was a discovery that um, some of the earliest dinosaurs were actually birds. They weren't reptiles, they were birds.
Wow.
Okay. So, and the reason why I mention that
Right.
is that if you look at the order in the Bible of how the world was created,
Right.
it goes from fish to birds to this to that. And the new science discovery actually lined up with the creation
Yeah,
story
they could
as
see
far as the
the
order in which things
isn't that
were
something?
created.
Yeah.
And it, to me, science proves God.
It
I
does.
don't need God to be proved,
No,
because
but
I have faith.
right.
But if you need that,
Yes.
science, the more we learn from science,
Yes.
the more it proves God,
It's
and it
all
creates
there.
that connection.
It's all there. And that was also what drove me to really seek quantum physics and start learning how to discover
As a child.
as a child why certain things were there that you couldn't see. And how can you explain that? Because I was building faith at that
Yes.
time.
Yes.
I was never a child that just took things at face value just because someone, important said something. I was always, I might have made a lot of Baptist preachers pretty angry, but I hope they forgive me.
I went through the same thing. It's for me, my big moment was at 29 years old. That's when I it all came together for me.
Right.
But prior to that, I was just sort of, doing
I
what my
need that
parents
story.
taught me, what my parents taught
Yeah.
me and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But I asked a lot of questions and got into a lot of trouble
Yeah.
for asking those
Yes.
questions.
How dare you?
And yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And so, and I had with my oldest son, we went through kind of the same thing where he asked some questions, and it did hurt his faith for a long time,
Yeah.
because he felt pushed away and so that he couldn't ask questions. And he's doing better now. And it's a journey. It's
It
a
is
journey
a
through your whole
journey.
life. But I love the idea of the wisdom codes. And I do think there's something to be said about these phrases. Now, a big one for me, phrases, is "Get thee away from me, Satan."
Yeah.
So in my head is going to places that are not healthy,
Right.
or I'm repeating thoughts in my head that are
Mhm.
negative.
Right. You need to just
I just get them out of my head by saying, "Get thee away from me, Satan,"
right.
and it works. It works for me.
Well,
You know?
these things, that's what's so cool about this book, because it should, if you're going through any emotional crisis, or if you're going through any kind of personal health crisis, if you're having trouble in your world financially, right? Any of these things, it's really not going to change the circumstances. But what Greg Braden offers is a way for you to, how we talk about health hackers.
Yeah.
This is a way to hack the brain in a way that, no, you can't. It's hard to change the circumstances of your life. But if you can change how you perceive it, if you can change your reaction to it, which is what we have 100% control over, right?
Yep.
We can't change. We can't change each other. We can't change the world, but we can change how we react to these things in the world, and even in our closer in world. And that brings us to a new place and an ability to actually make change because you're not down in it. You're over it. You've got a perspective versus an airplane versus holding a penny to your eye.
Well, and you have to give yourself the grace that as you're making change, that if you fall back for a period of time
It's
or
okay.
you stumble for a period of time, that's not failure.
Right. No.
You know, that you're still
No.
on the right path. And I think just totally in our world, we need to give ourselves room to make mistakes.
Yes.
This is something lacking right now, folks.
Yeah.
You do not have the space because of social media and other things. You don't have the space to make a mistake.
No.
And you don't have the space to have a little fallback where you come back. That doesn't
Right.
mean you're ruined forever. You got people, you know, I've had people in my life that have known me for 20 years and they'll see one thing that they don't, and then they're like, what has happened to you?
Right.
No,
They'll make a decision on one
on
conversation,
one thing.
one thing.
That's right.
But our world, is so public now. There is no such thing
As privacy.
And it's especially hard if you have a radio show, and now we're doing the podcast or whatever. People will have lots to say about different things that we may go over, and we encourage you to write to us or have a difference in perspective
and go. You're watching
know.
us on YouTube now. Be sure you're liking and subscribing this
Yeah.
because we want to hear from you.
Yeah, we do. And we'll have an open dialogue on that. But I'll go through real quick so we can get to your other book. Let me go through some key phases. One is peace be still. So this
That's
can
like
bring
get me away
Yes.
from me, Satan.
this can bring calm in the face of fear, chaos, and anxiety. A reminder to pause and breathe. This too shall pass. I use that all the time. So that's a very good, it speaks to impermanence, that reminds you that this too shall pass. I am that I am. Now, how often do you see that in the Bible, right? Anything you say behind those two words, I am, just remember those are creation words.
Mm-hmm.
Those are powerful words. So I'm going to suggest just off that one that you start being conscious of what you say after I am. And just think to yourself, do I want to create that? So instead of saying I am, maybe say I am feeling tired, or don't say I am tired, or I am sick, because you're going to create more of that. So I'm feeling sick. Use more adjectives in that instead. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Offers reassurance of guidance, protection, and provision. And another thing I've used that for is to have people pause for a moment and say, how many things are you running your whole life on because you want something, right? All these wants in our lives are bringing us a lot of stress, a lot of discomfort. So that is a very powerful beginning statement to a much larger statement. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And I thought, oh gosh, I never thought of it that way till recently. It was like the 50th time I heard that. And I'm like, oh. Also, may I be safe, may I be healthy, may I live with ease. Similar to also another good statement that like what you had. And Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And to me, that invites compassion, forgiveness, and a release of resentment. So those are just a few. But Greg Braden, great book.
That's good.
The wisdom codes.
Yep. And I love strong Southern women.
Oh,
okay?
Me too.
So this book I'm working on right now is called Y'all Fired. Okay.
Y'all fired.
Okay. Y'all Fired. And it's by Mandy Gunasekara.
I love it.
Okay. And I got a chance to interview her as well as read this book.
That's amazing.
It's called, the subtitle's A Southern Belle's Guide to Restoring Federalism and Draining the Swamp.
Oh, that's
And
hysterical.
I think that what it represents is common sense.
Mhm.
We have a huge lack, and I love it
Can I
because it's
see
kind of
that?
short. It's kind of short, so it's an easy read.
Y'all fired.
Y'all Fired. And I love it because it is a common sense guide, because you don't have to be the quantum physics girl. You can be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's simple things that are important and just common sense kind of things on how to drain the swamp, which is this sort of behemoth. And we were talking about it on the radio show recently where, it used to be that if people needed help, they got it from their community.
Yeah.
They got it from church. They got it maybe from a civic group that they had, whatever. And then we created this behemoth that started in about 1965, where you felt like every kind of help you had to come from the government. And
Right.
even I had the most amazing, in a weird way, discussions with faith-based groups. The first time President Trump was elected, that would come into the office. I worked for Senator Perdue at the time,
Right.
and they were concerned about where they were going to get their funding from. And I was like, you're a faith-based group.
Get it from your people.
Don't you get it from your people? That's what we do.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I'm a member at Gainesville First United Methodist Church. And one of the things I've worked hard on throughout my membership there is that I want us more outward.
Right.
Yes, you do the beautiful things at church, the services, the music, all
what
of the
can
things.
you do in the community?
But what can you do in the community? And we have a special
Yeah.
fund that we give to every month called the Good Samaritans Fund that we use. But also we're much more outpouring than inward in our church. And I'm so thankful for that.
That is a great
because
thing.
You're going to help somebody more in a lasting way where they don't feel emasculated or a loss of their freedom. Because sometimes when you get a check from the government, and I'm not talking about Social Security or anything like that. I'm talking about when you start getting things that are supposed to fix your problems from the government, you become dependent on them.
And they want you to at this stage.
That's right.
Some
and
of those
if you
things
go
need
through
to...
your church or your faith groups or whatever that is, then it's a community helping you.
Right.
And you're going to be a lot more likely to get back on your feet again, which is what everybody wants.
100%. I am 100% there. I was always, thinking that, the less the government was in your pockets or in your day-to-day life, the more freedom you actually had to learn and grow from every circumstance you have. So to me, I think this is a wonderful read because I think people need to see how if we do rely on our community, instead of trying to, we don't want a big, massive government. We want a small government that helps where it needs to. Otherwise, our communities need to support.
That opens up your ability to take risk and to build things on your own. Okay. And that's really what, you're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. That's what really will give you, I think, the most love and the most ability to feel free in a lot of ways.
And also a sense of self-worth. One of the things that I don't know if it was Bill Gates, but one of the very wealthy billionaires made a statement once that my husband repeats all the time. What he said about his children was, give them enough that they can do something, but not too much that they do nothing. That is a very valuable statement. And you can apply that to the government. You can apply it to any situation. You want to give everybody deserves a leg up when they need it. I'm all for it.
I was watching an interview recently with Kelly Loeffler was out in California. She's the head now of the Small Business Administration. Of course, they had these terrible fires. And the fires, they've allocated something like so far $3.5 billion for people to get started again on the federal government side. But in the local neighborhoods, they've only given 1,000 building permits. Now, I don't know how many thousands of buildings were wiped out with that fire, but I think it's a lot more than 1,000.
Yeah.
So, that's when government gets bogged down, And so what I love about reading is it frees you, it opens your mind. There's no better feeling I have than when I get lost in a book, because then time
disappears.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You disappear.
And we won't have time today to talk about the third book that I
brought.
What
is it? So that you can mention it?
Because this is a fun book. Okay. So this is, I'm a British history buff, and this is called Young Queens. And this is the 3 Renaissance women and the price of power.
Ooh, I would read that.
And these are some of the women that were queens, Queen Elizabeth and others that came in first and had this kind of power for the first time. And even though it's history and, you have a lot of questions, you had Queen Mary, you had Queen Elizabeth. I think it's just I love this, and it has been a fantastic read. Now, I listened to it first, and so I do that too, because it's so much easier riding around in the car to do that. But these books are really fantastic. And just to give a little plug to my friend, Philippa Lacey Brule, she has a British history book club that I'm a part of. And it's a get together. And this is an opportunity for me to get together with people from around the world.
That's great.
To share, that have the same interests that I do. and you get on a little Zoom call and you have a
That's
2-hour
fun.
discussion about a book, and it's fantastic.
And it does cause you to read books you may not think about
Yes.
reading otherwise.
And that is so important too. Find it. We still have up in my kids' bedroom, which is now the grandkids' bunk room.
Yes.
We have all the Nancy Drew books and the Hardy Boy books that they had collected when they were kids.
Mhm.
They don't want to take them back to their house because they want to have them for their kids to read when they come to see
Right.
us. But those kinds of things are the things you can instill in your children from an early age. Not only just reading to them, but giving them that empowerment of having that book in their lap and reading it themselves.
You just gave me an idea. Wouldn't it be fun to do it? Like maybe some families get out there and do a family book club.
Yeah.
Madison Redwine living in Colorado. My youngest daughter, I never get to see her, but wouldn't it be fun to do a family book club and be able to do it on
Ooh.
Zoom so that
That's a
you
great
and
idea.
your family can actually share and either educational knowledge, biographies, fun reads, but have each person participate and then bring the family together for an hour, hour and a half every month even. And whoa, you just gave me an idea. I hope you guys pick that up. I think it's a great idea. What a thing to
really
do.
Very exciting. Well, I hope that you enjoyed our discussion about books, and we're going to do this on a regular basis. And if you're watching us on YouTube, which you are watching us on YouTube,
Yes.
I shouldn't say that.
Hi.
Please like and subscribe. Put your comments in there. Give us some suggestions on some books that you're reading. We would love for you to do that. But I tell you what, this has been a fantastic journey, and we look forward to getting together with you again.
And as always, we like to share a lot of information with you because we know that your wellness deserves a little oversharing.